And it's so awesome to see you again and just to visit and just to really kind of see where you are. And I loved your chapter. And
Thank
so we
you.
just
Thank
wanted
you.
to have a conversation. This is a celebration day. As you can
It
see with all those
absolutely
big,
is.
beautiful balloons you have behind us.
Yes, and stars. Woo! We're throwing confetti in the air. We're having a party
We're
here.
having a party. Wish I was there joining you.
I wish you were
Uh,
here too.
Yeah. And actually, right, today it's one of those days um, it's so gorgeous outside. We have had the coolest fall that we've ever had,
Mm,
but today it's like just barely hitting 80. Actually, it's 75 still. So that's pretty amazing. It's one of those days when you just want to be outside.
I understand.
So, Susan, what inspired you to participate? You've written another chapter in another book, the game
Hmm.
or the Brilliant Breakthrough
This is
series.
three. This is three.
That's awesome. Excuse me. Why? What inspired you to be a part of this series?
Well, I have a lot to say about authenticity, and in terms of how I began to think about this being a topic. Early in the year, I got involved in several conversations about social incivility and is it becoming an epidemic? And I got thinking about it, and in my mind, I was thinking, if people were just authentic, uh, we wouldn't have a lot of the social issues that we have. And of course, I hear a lot about how genuine and how authentic I am in my own practice.
Mhm.
And so when Maggie and I talked about this book, I said, I'm thinking about writing something about authenticity because I think people really need to start matching their outsides to what's going on inside. And that's how I ended up coming up with the chapter, The Real Deal on Authenticity in Relationships.
And it's so important. And actually, when we have to be so authentic with our own selves, there's such a need for
Hmm.
that. And yet sometimes you have to stop and back up. And I think this COVID time has been a real time where things become kind of front and center over really going deeper within and exploring who it is we are and how we want to show up in the world,
Hmm.
and how to really lead in that way.
And one of the things I've experienced, because I am a therapist, I'm a clinical social worker professionally, as well as a business guide. And one of the things that showed up for me was first the phone started ringing off the hook because people were displaced. Whether they were going from working in an office to working at home, they were displaced in terms of not knowing what to do with their children because their
Yes.
children weren't going to school. They were just they were full of angst and they were just flustered. And so people began to identify that they connected themselves to what they were and what they did and everything outside of themselves. Because once they were home again and once they were immersed in family life 24/7, they began to take a look at themselves as well as their home life and as well as what they had going on. And it was eye opening.
It's incredibly eye-opening. And we have a big family with a lot of grandchildren, and the kids were home all the time. The
Mhm.
parents were home and working, especially at the early onset of this, where they were working from home too.
Mhm.
Really gave a lot of pause for reflection on how you're showing up within your own family, and really how many families had ever spent that much time together, ever.
Absolutely. And then all the different professions that relied on face to face work, school teachers, Oh my gosh, they were so impacted. I heard stories of school teachers teaching on Zoom and having parents screaming at them from another room because they
Yes.
didn't like what was going on. They didn't agree with what was being said. And how does one work? How does one teach in that kind of a disruptive setting? So again, it was just it threw everybody off. It knocked us all off our square.
It truly did because I have school teachers. A niece that's a school teacher, and a lot of her friends
Mhm,
are school teachers, and a number of them said, "We're not teaching anymore. We're going to go find a different career,"
mhm.
simply because it was so difficult. They felt like they had their hands tied, and they had to deal with kind of some abusive situations in front of the children in the classroom.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And when I talk about a parent yelling from the other room, that's not what I'm referring to with regards to authenticity. That's not
No.
at all what I'm referring to. Um, People think if they show up and they're themselves, that's what I'm referring to. And that's not necessarily the truth because we've got a lot of people showing up right now in the world and they show up loud and they show up brazen, they show up cruel, they show up violent. And
Yes.
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about expressing what's going on inside so you can be heard and so you can be acknowledged. Because when you're that loud, you aren't acknowledged.
No, you're
You're
usually
you're
shunned.
you're yes, and you're creating fear. And we
Hmm.
don't need any more fear because that's a huge issue in society right now. People are actually afraid to be authentic, lots of times in one-on-one situations. One of the things I've learned about authenticity is so many individuals are afraid to share information that might be sensitive or might hurt somebody else's feelings or might open the door to differences or conflictual thinking or anything like that. That's why ghosting is so popular. That's why people leave marriages or break up via text. I mean, that's insane.
Oh, no.
Human to human contact is what authenticity is all about. And what we deserve, human to human contact. And when you're authentic, I can't think of much of anything that can't be addressed.
No, that's very true. So, how would you describe, what would you be your definition of authenticity?
Mm, that's a great question. And I love to have discussions about this because every time I do, somebody else shines a light on a new aspect I may or may not have thought of. Authenticity to me is a place of integrity where your insides match your outsides. So if you think about it, if for example, myself, I'm a pretty easygoing, fun-loving sort of a person, and if I show up lighthearted, and then I realize that there's a situation that's not lighthearted at all, because I deal a lot with grief and loss,
Oh, you do.
and we shift over into a place of heartfelt compassion. So it's still a place of heart, but it's how the heart shows up.
Right.
That's the distinction. And
That's
that's what
beautiful.
authenticity is all about to me. It's about being genuine. And if something feels icky, we share that it's icky. That's a clinical word, right? Um, but if things don't feel right, we can acknowledge that because sometimes the other people we're in a position where we're relating to, they have insight that we don't have, and we need to learn from other people. That's another thing, Becky. We are very focused right now on judging.
Mm,
We're a
yes.
very judgmental society to the point of where sometimes people don't even know the distinction between thinking and feeling. I'll be asking a client, how did you feel when that happened? And they'll tell me what they thought. And when we discuss it, they don't understand the distinction.
There's difference between the thoughts and the
hmm
feelings.
And there's such a movement to think positively. Well, I'm not opposed to that, but let's be realistic as well, because there's a couple realities. Hope is not a strategy, and positive thinking is not a solution. Sometimes we need to get down and dirty and we need to take action and we need to do things that require either self-discipline, personal reflection. Um,
Really going
in my
deep.
yeah, in my environment, of course, sometimes people get very raw, and I always tell my clients everything is welcome in the Life Skills Center. I actually very lovingly refer to my office as the bunker of transformation because it's in an office, a basement setting in a big office building, and that's what we do. I love to help people transform their lives from where they say they don't want to be into where they do want to be.
That's brilliant and that's beautiful. And what a special gift that you have, that you can
Mhm.
actually get to almost to exactly the level that they are and where they are, and help them see that there's a whole other way of doing it. But the first has to be connecting with the feelings, with what is going on truly deep inside.
Absolutely. And I doubt I'd be good at that if I wasn't authentic.
Right, right.
hmm
How
Definitely. Now,
fascinating.
the thing that people have been asking me is what's up with authenticity in a business book? I actually had a client ask me, what do you know about business? And I said, well, you're sitting in it. that's that's part of what I know about business. Um, you know, people go into business for a variety of different reasons. And when they do, even if there is a structure and a brand and a business model and a business plan and all of that,
Everything.
at the center of each business is the individual who either owns the business and manages it, or the owner who hires the managers and employees. That person is at the center. And if they're off, the business is going to reflect that.
Very
So
much.
that's why authenticity is so important in business.
And there's so many that with COVID were disrupted, and they a lot of them decided to start their own businesses,
hmm
and to really step into that role and have the authenticity to do so in a way
hmm
that encourages others to really connect is part of the vital pieces to making all this happen.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Beautiful. Well, it's just such a pleasure to get to speak with you again, because I think we were in one of the same when I was in it, and one of the I think it was the third volume. I think
I
I was
think
in
it
that
was a
one.
second volume,
Second,
wasn't it?
I don't remember right now.
What color was the book?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. They're a beautiful array of rainbow colors,
I
that's for
love the
sure.
colors. Yes,
hmm
and one of the authors held them all up together, and it was wow. Look at that! Isn't that it?
Well,
Just strike.
I've
Do you
I've
have a
I've
full
got them all
line
right
of them?
here. I've
Oh, look
got
at
them all right
this.
here. So
Look at that beautiful array of
love this
gorgeous
book.
colors.
hmm
Thank you for what you do, how you listen, how you learn, how you observe things, and how you crystallize
Mm,
this into something that is easy for people to consume and really give deep thought to. And
mm.
just love being able to connect with you again.
My
And
pleasure.
I would have loved to have been there with you guys celebrating this, all of you
Oh,
together. But
we'd love to
another
have you
time.
with us.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, thank you. So,
Thank you.
thank you for your contribution. For those that are listening, be sure and check out the Brilliant Breakthrough series. This is volume 5, and you might, if you find that of real interest, you can get it both as a Kindle version, which can be
hmm
read on
An
just about
ebook.
any device, like an ebook,
Right. hmm
or the paperback and the hardcover will soon be available as well. But when you stop and reflect, and as you read, don't just skim read. Take time to read one chapter at a time and gain the most that you possibly can. You find that you resonate with what the words that are in each of these the chapters of this book. Go back and reflect and look at the other books in the series, because there's quite a array of amazing opportunities to have self-reflection and growth.
Definitely.
Thank you. Enjoyed seeing you again.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner.